The Department of Public Health and Human Services is pleased to bring you Aging Horizons. Medicare, Medicaid, Social Security, fraud, legal issues, veterans benefits, and caregiving. Aging Horizons is a program dedicated to inform and prepare Montanans on these timely issues, making a difference to you and your loved ones. Here now is today's program host.
Welcome to Aging Horizons. Today we'll talk about Senior Medicare Patrol Program. As the title suggests, it's about Medicare. Medicare is defrauded to the extent of about $60 billion a year. And our first line of defense are the individuals who are receiving Medicare and the notice of the services that they've received. If you see something fishy, well, we've got a program for you. Stay tuned.
Can you say ombudsman?
Ombudsman. Benson?
Uma Doodlesman? Fortunately, you don't have to say it right to get the help of a long-term care ombudsman. If you or a loved one reside in assisted living or long-term care, an ombudsman can help resolve any issue. And these services are completely free and confidential. Now, why don't you try that again?
Ombudsman.
You've probably seen some big-name celebrities on your TV lately talking about all the Medicare benefits you're missing out on. But the insurance companies who are paying for these ads may be pushing benefits not available in Montana. Fortunately, help is available from a friendly state health insurance assistance program counselor who can help you sort it all out. It's free, and we screen everyone for eligibility regardless of your zip code. It's Montanans helping Montanans. Call today.
Respite. It's okay to need it. It's okay to want it. Will you provide it?
The hard part about having outside help is that there's not a lot of people out there who can do that kind of work. We've been very fortunate that our Bonnie has been with us for 7 years. I don't know what I'd do without her. I need her in our lives. She's our second mother. And I can't help but think of her that way.
To find out how to change lives, including your own, call 800-224-6034 or visit respite.mt.gov.
Did you just text me?
I didn't want to disturb you if you were sleeping.
Sleeping? I'm sitting right next to you, silly.
There you are. Hey, I found a couple of Medicare helping programs online that I think we ought to look into.
It says if we qualify, we can get help paying for our prescription drugs. Oh, and there's a program that can help pay our Part B premium.
To learn more about extra help and Medicare savings programs, call your local SHIP counselor today.
Maybe I better text him.
Welcome to Aging Horizons, brought to you by the Department of Public Health and Human Services Senior and Long-Term Care Division. I'm your host, Brian Lamore. We're talking about the Senior Medicare Patrol Program. We're looking into the possibility of fraud happening in Montana and nationally. And many times, you, the receiver of Medicare benefits, are our first line of defense. Of course, we have a wonderful guest on the show. Returning again is Renee Labrie-Shanks. You're the Montana SMP Program Director. Welcome back.
Thanks, Brian. I appreciate being here.
Oh, we love having you here. So let's start at the top. SMP, Senior Medicare Patrol Program. What is it, and really, how did it come about?
Yeah, the Senior Medicare Patrol, or now known as SMP, we're here to provide people with information to protect themselves from Medicare fraud, errors, and abuse. And also with that, we say protect, detect, and report. So they protect themselves, but then it's through detecting potential fraud, errors, and abuse, and then reporting their concerns. So we help educate and empower people on Medicare and their family to fight fraud against the fraudsters out there. We can help with questions, concerns, complaints, and also provide information and educational presentations. So if there are groups out there that would like us to present, they just need to reach out. I know you'll have the number up there, the 800-551-3191, and that'll get them their closest office on aging, which is where we partner across the state. So any county in Montana is covered. We're coordinated by Missoula Aging Services, and then they'll find us in their local communities at either the area agency, the county council on aging, or perhaps even the RSVP program in their area.
Mm-hmm. Well, sounds like a great and wonderful program, but I know I mentioned earlier that the people who are receiving Medicare are the first line of defense. How is that? How do they first start reporting? What might they think is suspicious, and why would they call you?
Good questions. I really do like to break it down how important it is that the person on Medicare is that first line of defense. Because if you think about it, when we see these cases, and I can talk about a few today that get into 7 million, 6 billion, 23 million, that is after a long time of investigating and multiple cases all thrown together. But imagine if that first person on Medicare got their statement and saw something they didn't recognize and they reported it and we got it turned in right away. That could stop it when it's, in the thousands instead of when it's in the millions. So we tell people, treat their Medicare card like a credit card. That number is valuable to thieves. They can't steal their identity anymore. Thank goodness it's not our Social Security number anymore, but they can steal from Medicare. Also, don't take advice or offers for medical services over the phone. If people they don't know call or come to their house or anything, approach them in public, do not give out that Medicare number to people who ask for it if they're not seeing their actual provider. And then read that Medicare summary notice, because that's going to show everything that's billed in their name, whether or not they received it, or whether or not they ordered it. It's going to show everything on there, and they can turn it in immediately. And that's what we want to do, ask questions and report problems.
Mm-hmm. As a generalization, you see a healthcare provider, you see them, you go to their place, you give them the number. People calling you or texting you or saying, click here, you don't want to do that, do you?
No, and it doesn't matter if it's a landline or a cell phone. The best course they can do is don't pick up a call if you don't recognize the number. They use those, we all know now, the spoofing technology where they can make it look like they're calling from Anaconda or Deer Lodge or wherever in Montana, and they're not. And then they pick up the phone, and so even if they don't give out their information, they're now marked as a live line. They're going to stay on rotation with these outfits, and then if they spend any amount of time on the phone, maybe it's a minute, maybe it's 10 minutes, even if they don't give out their information, their number is now even more valuable. So that outfit sells them to more outfits. And next thing you know, they're getting so many calls. So the best thing is to just not pick up the phone. Stop picking up the phone if you have been. Let it go to voicemail. If it's important, they'll leave a message.
Mm-hmm. Now, an individual receives a listing of Medicare services that they've received. People make mistakes. I mean, they're innocent, but sometimes they're not mistakes, right? And how does a consumer of services recognize a mistake versus fraud?
Well, I'd like to say that it doesn't even matter, because as long as it's corrected, then everything else will be fine. So a mistake might be a provider they actually recognize, but it's a service or a duplicate service that they either didn't receive or they received twice. And, numbers get transposed. I think the big cue that it's fraud, out and out fraud, is they don't recognize the provider, or they never received or ordered the supply, or it's on a date they never saw anybody. Things like that would indicate it's more apt to be fraud. And then the mistakes that happen, they will get a bill in the mail if it's a mistake, because the provider made a mistake, but they are going to bill you. The fraudsters know that you're going to call and complain if you get a bill. So most of the time when it's fraud, and I'm just making this up out of the blue, but most of the time you're not going to get the bill. They're counting on the fact that so many people don't read their Medicare summary notices, and then you'll never get a bill. So if you don't read the statement and you don't get a bill, you're not going to even identify it as anything, and they'll get their money.
Mm-hmm. And they know what they're doing. They're very good at what they do. And so again, we're talking about the first line of defense being the individual. Now we're drawing to a close in our first segment. I know we've got a lot more information, in fact, some examples of fraud. So maybe you could hear the examples, look at your bills and say, oh, I got a question. Let me call the SMP people, and they'll help clear it up. We'll talk about that and so much more in our next segment, so stay tuned.
Perhaps our regular viewers have noticed that we've been missing a host for the last several months. In July, our favorite person, Kimmy Everman, unexpectedly passed away, and we'd like to take a few moments now to share some memories that we have of her.
For many of us, watching Aging Horizons with Kimmy on as the host was like talking to a friend, and for Kimmy, that's exactly what it was. She cared about all of the viewers of Montana on Aging Horizons as if they were her personal friends. She wanted each of us to live the best possible life and connect to as many services as possible. She had no greater joy in life than connecting advocates to others that could help Montanans across the state with problems that they maybe didn't know as much about. Losing Kimmy was a great loss to the state of Montana, but the work that she did will live on in the hearts and minds and Rolodexes of so many of us at the state.
So working with Kimmy was always a very fun experience for me. She lit up a room with her smile, and I loved her giggle. She had this giggle that was the cutest, most happiest spreading of joy that I could describe. She also was very passionate about her work, about helping veterans, and about her dog Sophie.
Kimmy's been my friend, my coworker, and my mentor for over 20 years. She has taught me so much about not only Medicare, but working with people. She had a great sense of compassion and love, especially for veterans, animals, and the underdog. She loved working with seniors and people with disabilities. That was her heart. She will be greatly missed.
Aging Horizons has been on the air for over 30 years, and I've had the pleasure of working with these wonderful ladies and everybody in senior long-term care that length of time, including Kimmy Everman. And whenever we got done with the show, I just loved her laughter, which everybody's commented here. It was like we're getting away with something. Isn't this fun? And I will sincerely miss both that and her.
Welcome back to Aging Horizons. I'm your host, Brian Lamore, and we're continuing our discussion about the State Medicare Patrol, the individuals that look for fraud in Medicare throughout the state of Montana. We'll have a number up occasionally, and you can call that telephone number and you can get all kinds of assistance. Rejoining us now is Renee Labrie-Shanks. You're the Montana SMP Program Director. And you know, we're talking about like $60 billion is lost to Medicare to fraud in a year. And, well, how does that really affect me as an individual, and why should I be more vigilant in what I'm being billed for?
Good question. I mean, if we think of those losses in billions of dollars each year, and those are estimates because it's impossible to really measure because not everyone reports it. And, you know, every time something new comes along, there's those that figure out a way to take advantage of it. And it's with Medicare changes, everything's always updating. It's just overwhelming for people to even try and stay ahead of it all. And that's why it's so important that if people can't stay up on the changes, they just get to know the common red flags, because it doesn't matter what scam it is. They all have the same things in common. But once it happens, you know, it can not just hurt them financially, but it can hurt them physically. If their medical records get changed and altered down the road, there's no central repository for medical identity like there is for our financial identity. We can go to the credit bureaus, clean things up. You know, we have that. But with the medical, there's just no centralized repository. So once things get messed up, it's hard. It takes longer to clear up and costs more money to clear up. Mm-hmm. So it's so important that people read their statements and report the fraud when it happens. And then lastly, I do want to mention, when we say, why does it matter? If we talk about solvency of Medicare and everybody's worried about how long it's going to be there, if we cut down this fraud, we'd have the money to pay for it for indefinitely. So we need to, as taxpayers and as somebody who's going to be on Medicare one day, we need to take care of it and make sure that the fraudsters aren't stealing all the money from it.
Mm-hmm. And that $60 billion from the fraudsters, many times that goes to nefarious organizations who we don't want funded at all. Now, earlier you mentioned certain red flags that individuals can note. What are some common red flags that we might see and we might question and say, I'm calling that 800 number?
Sure. Some of the red flags are when you answer the phone and it's somebody who's pretending to be a government agency, whether it's the IRS, Social Security, or Medicare. Government imposter scams are one of the highest, reoccurring scams there are. And it's because it's so scary. People don't want to mess with their taxes or their Social Security or their Medicare. And so they scare people and they use scare tactics. If something seems urgent or it seems like something scares you, pay attention to those feelings, because a government agency is not going to call you and scare you. And frankly, they're not going to call you out of the blue. If you receive anything from a government agency, it'll be a letter. And you can always call your local area agency on aging, county council on aging. You can always call us and say, hey, I got this letter. Do you know anything about it? Because if we don't know, we'll look it up for you and figure it out. But if something scares you, slow things down, ask friends, ask family, ask a trusted advisor, and we can look into it for you. But that's a huge red flag that scares you. And then another thing is, if somebody's asking for your information, especially they use, let's verify your number. I need to verify your number. Well, if it's Medicare, they have your number. They don't need to verify it. That's their way of actually getting it from you in the first place. And they're very smooth talking. So sometimes I think people give out their information before they even realize it. So another benefit of having the new Medicare numbers that are no longer tied to our social is people don't have them memorized anymore, and they can't just rattle them off before they realize they've given it out. So that's been helpful. But if you have given it out and immediately afterward you're like, wait a minute, why did I do that? Give us a call. That's all you got to do. So that's a red flag. Somebody asking to verify your information, something that seems scary. And then another red flag is that somebody's asking for money of some sort over the phone. And often they do it they want gift cards. What reputable organization is going to say, go buy some, Best Buy gift cards or whatever and give me the numbers? They do it in a way that it just seems normal and logic at the time. And then if you slow things down and go, wait a minute, I can't believe this. This is not right. Always slow things down. And if it's a legitimate organization, they're going to want you to be comfortable. They're not going to want you rushed. So just watch out for the common things are using the psychology. You'll notice if you're heightened state of emotions, boom, that's a red flag right there.
Mm-hmm. And they intentionally put you in that heightened state. And I like what you say, slow down. Get an advocate, the SMP person. If a person is going to call you with something like this, what are some of the first things that you look at briefly?
Oh, sure. Well, the main thing is, did you give out your information? Did you actually give out your number? Because we do get calls from people who say, I received this call. This is what they said. This is what they wanted, but I didn't give out my information. It's like, oh, great. We still want to get those calls because, one, we'll put them in because it's important to get a picture of what's going on in the state so we know. So maybe we put out fraud alerts, or maybe we put it in the system so the Office of Inspector General knows what's going on around the country, and they can help also put out their news alerts and things. So we want still people to let us know. But if they haven't given out their information, all that we can tell them to do is don't pick up the phone unless you know who it is, and continue doing the same thing, not giving out your information. But if they've given it out, say that somebody called, they gave out their Medicare number, and right after they went, oh my gosh, I know this wasn't right, call us. We need to call Medicare and report that. And then we're going to collect their information, and we're going to get that submitted to the Office of Inspector General. I always like to say Medicare is going to need to get their money back, so they need to be alerted, and they'll file a fraud report. And then the Office of Inspector General, they're the ones that put the bad guys away. So it needs to go to both places, and we can help with that.
Yep, and the SMP people at the 800 number is the ones to do that. Well, coming up June 5th is a Medicare Fraud Prevention Week, and we'll be talking about that and so much more. So stay tuned. We have another segment to go.
Every 65 seconds, someone is affected with Alzheimer's or other dementias. Many become isolated at a time when help is most needed. If you or someone you love is affected, help is available, both for people with memory loss and their caregivers. Memory loss can feel frightening, but you are not alone. Call the free 24/7 Alzheimer's Association helpline, 800-272-3900, for guidance and support.
You've probably seen some big-name celebrities on your TV lately talking about all the Medicare benefits you're missing out on. But the insurance companies who are paying for these ads may be pushing benefits not available in Montana. Fortunately, help is available from a friendly state health insurance assistance program counselor who can help you sort it all out. It's free, and we screen everyone for eligibility regardless of your zip code. It's Montanans helping Montanans. Call today.
Respite. It's okay to need it. It's okay to want it. Will you provide it?
The hard part about having outside help is that there's not a lot of people out there who can do that kind of work. We've been very fortunate that our Bonnie has been with us for 7 years. I don't know what I'd do without her. I need her in our lives. She's our second mother. And I can't help but think of her that way.
To find out how to change lives, including your own, call 800-224-6034 or visit respite.mt.gov.
Welcome back to Aging Horizons. I'm your host, Brian Lamore, and we're continuing our discussion about the Senior Medicare Patrol, how they're helping nationally find up to $60 billion a year in Medicare fraud. Rejoining us is Renee Labrie-Shanks, you're the SMP Director for the state of Montana. And coming up pretty quick here, June 5th, we're going to be focusing on Medicare fraud. This is an annual event, isn't it? Tell us more about it.
Yeah, every year it's during the week, the entire week of June 5th. And that's because Medicare, when you're 65, you go on Medicare in general. So it's easy to remember. 6-5, whatever week contains June 5th every year. And it's an important week because we spend it reminding people and educating people on the steps they can do to prevent Medicare fraud. So there'll be presentations across the state. Look at your local area agencies on aging. Will have a lot of information going out on that.
Mm-hmm. That's great, because the people are first line of defense in looking at your Medicare statements or your provider statements. Could you kind of maybe go over what some people have caught and contrast between a mistake and an intentional fraud?
Sure. A case that just came in this week from the Flathead was catheters, urinary catheters that were shown on the Medicare summary notice that someone received. And every time Medicare paid, it was like $1,400. And this person didn't order them or receive them. That's something to watch out for. Genetic test kits. We've had a ton of COVID test kits. And Medicare no longer, they changed something last May, actually, where we shouldn't see that anymore. But if people go back and look at their statements for the past year, we can still get that turned in and corrected and money back to Medicare. Another thing that people have been receiving in Montana are the calls saying, we're updating your Medicare card with a plastic card. It's got safety measures. It's got a chip. We just need to verify your Medicare number, and we'll get that out. And if you don't give us the information, your number will no longer be active. Something like that. So we just want to make sure people know. Read your summary notice and look for things that you didn't order. It could be a provider you don't even recognize. Please call us on that. And then if you get these scam calls, just remember in the back of your mind, say, I do not give out my Medicare number to anyone. Mm-hmm. Period. And the doctor necessarily, your own doctor, if say you got a call and it's a provider out of New Jersey, Florida, wherever, selling durable medical equipment, and you give your number out Or in the case that you don't give your number out, they look you up and you give out your doctor or something. They're going to fax an order to your doctor. And maybe you've talked about a bad back. Who amongst us hasn't at some point in our life, right? Well, your doctor, if it's in your notes and they've talked to you about it at some point, they'll say, oh, I guess they want to get a back brace from this outfit. Because you can get your supplies from anywhere you'd like. The doctor's not going to know that. And if you have talked about that and sometime in your past, they could sign off on it. Next thing you know, that outfit now will bill you for something. And then they're going to continue billing you for other supplies. And they'll sell your information to other people now that they have it. And you'll get more. So we've seen summary notices where I think the one I filled out last month was, I want to say 21 different companies had been billing for multiple supplies. And yes, they're not all going to get through because company A already got money from Medicare for a wrist on your left hand, and now company B got the right hand. So all these other companies might try to bill for it and they're not going to get it, but it's like a big clamshell game. It's ridiculous. So read your statements and protect that number. And if you think that your number's been compromised, call Medicare to report it and they can send you a new number, a new card.
Okay. Now, with the Senior Medicare Patrol, you're available statewide, your representatives, to do local presentations, right? Who's your target audience and how often do you do this?
Well, we mainly want to reach the people on Medicare themselves. And I'd say the family members, if somebody else is helping people look through their statements or take care of things, then we want them to be the ones that we talk to. Partner agencies as well, because they can help get us in front of groups that we may not. Like Montana AARP is just a wonderful, wonderful program. They are constantly putting out information. They have a fraud watch network. So partner agencies can also help us by getting us in front of groups that we may not be able to reach ourselves. And our local area agencies on aging and the senior centers across Montana are great places for us to reach all of these groups.
Well, Renee, we've drawn to a close on this segment or this show, and I'd like to thank you for your service to all of Montana and the individuals and for keeping our programs honest. Not the programs, but the people who would do fraud towards them and the $60 billion that's disappearing. We appreciate you being on.
Thanks, Brian.
Right. And for our viewers, we've been talking about the Senior Medicare Patrol. We have an 800 number that's up, and, they want to hear from you. I mean, there's no question that is too small or insignificant. If you just have a question, if your spider sense is telling you that this might be fraud, give them a call. Or if it's suspicious, they're there to help you out, even figuring out the program and other aspects of it for Medicare. And it's a great program, but let's keep it great and let's keep fraud out of it so our premiums will stay down. For Aging Horizons, I'm Brian Lamore. Thank you for joining us.
Special thanks to the Department of Public Health and Human Services for their continued support. Hosts on Aging Horizons are program specialists at the Montana Office on Aging. Production facilities provided by Video Express Productions. For more information about Aging Horizons, call the Department of Public Health and Human Services toll-free at 800-332-2272.